Hey everybody, welcome. It's the June 28th, the Layer5 website's meeting call, and today is the first website's meeting call since Meshery and Service Mesh Performance have been adopted into the CNCF. So that's big news for the projects. That's been part of the plan all along for the projects. And so as they enter into the CNCF, that it means very few changes. Most of what we do is will continue to be the same. We'll continue to steward and shepherd both Meshery and Service Mesh Performance as projects. We will continue to build other projects. So the same motion that we've had all along. There are a couple of small updates to do for Meshery and the Service Mesh Performance. Well, the projects themselves, both just a couple of tweaks on their websites to list them as CNCF member projects. And then there's a couple of updates to move the repositories around and really just some administrative chores. But other than that, it's a nice step for the projects. They should get a few new eyeballs on them, a few new people coming by to try them out and maybe contribute to them. And so for a lot of you who've been here for some time, it's nice for all of you in that, well, one, the projects that you've been working on, the work that you've been doing only gets more and more popular, only gets more and more recognized. So that's great. So that's the announcement. Does anyone have questions on what that means to us, or any questions on the projects going into the CNCF? If they come up later, I'll be, just hit me in Slack or any of the community managers or meshmates. So.
Okay, so congratulations to the entire community, to Lee and the entire community. So we'll move on to today's topics. First one being the updates needed on Meshery and SMP websites for inclusion as member projects. So as Lee mentioned that the projects have been accepted into the CNCF. So now this news has to be propagated on both of those project websites. So both project websites are currently Jekyll based, and the first one being for the meshery.io website. So enough, like the issue has been created, and if you feel you just want to start contributing from this issue to meshery.io, or want to try your hands on Jekyll, then you are invited, you are free to take up this issue. The other one being a very similar issue for the another website, that is SMP specs. So I'll just show you both of the websites as well. So this is the first website, that is the meshery.io, which is a project specific website for the Meshery project. And so where is so this is the section that is being mentioned in the issue as well. Like this is the older change that was made when Meshery was listed into the CNCF landscape. But now as Meshery project becomes a part of CNCF, so this section can be updated with the new information, which is stated as to write it as Meshery is a CNCF project. And similarly, the second one being the SMP. So a section should be created for this website as well, showing the CNCF logo and stating that it is Service Mesh Performance is a CNCF project. So these two issues are like good first issues, and if you want to start contributing, you can just take them up. And if you require any help, you can just ping. You can ask on the issue or Slack. Any like there are people who will just help you out on any of those channels. Okay, so any questions regarding the first topic?
Yeah, I think each of the issues have, yeah, did you talk about copyright notice as well? That there's, I think each repo has a couple of issues. The other one is even easier. It's just a copyright notice at the bottom of the footer. I think it's in there. And, or maybe,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry,
there
maybe,
on SMP, but it's not on mesh.io.
oh, I see. Okay. Maybe that was included in the same issue on the meshery.io site. But either way, yeah, they're great starter updates if somebody's interested. By the way, just as a quick reminder, especially for Nitish, who's been here for some time, and well, actually, so a lot of you guys are about in the same boat. Siddharth, I think you're not in the same boat just yet, but I'd love to see you there, and that is that both Sayatan and Nitish had recently been invited to join the Layer5 GitHub organization because they keep contributing and they keep making an impact. And so we want to both recognize the work that they're doing, as well as empower them to triage issues. So now that their GitHub users are members of the GitHub org, the Layer5 GitHub org, they have permission to like update issues, whether the issues were created by them or not. And so we don't always explicitly say this, but it is the case that one, they can now self-assign issues if they want to pick them up and take them. Anyone can create issues, but now also they can update existing issues that they didn't create. So they can help assign issues to other people or update the description or, basically help move issues along. So, and that's certainly encouraged behavior.
And they can review PRs made by other contributors.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point that like everyone can review PRs made by anyone else. So, and it's helpful. It's a good way to learn as well.
Okay. So moving on to the next topic, that was to change the password complexity requirements. So initially, I'll just give a brief about the issue. So we have a discussion forum hosted on discuss.layer5.io, which is a discourse instance running, customized instance for layer 5. The discussions related to service mesh and community and open source are being made. And you can also join any of the discussion or post your own discussions and be a part of the discussion forum. So if you don't have an account, just type down the URL and create an account. The next thing is so the password specification was like it was before the change, it was to be made up to 10 characters. Like the complexity was to have at least 10 characters, which is now reduced as one of the user, I don't remember the rule. I think it was user.
Yeah, yeah, or victory.
No, like I don't remember what exactly his role. Like I user product feed.
Oh,
I'll just
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, victory is sort of focused on user experience.
yeah, user
And
experience. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
So user
Yeah, no,
experience contributor pointed out. So we changed this to 8 characters and also to change the description. So it would show that it is compulsory and all those stuff. So that's just a minor change, but the point of showing the discussion forum was because if you wish to contribute by discussions or contribute to the code or anything, you are welcome. You can just ping me and I'll also show once the demo of how to contribute, because in the past week there were many questions about how do we make changes to the code of discuss.layer5.io. So I think the meeting would be a very good place to tell you all about this. So we'll get on to that in the last topic as well. So we can talk about it in detail in later after these two topics gets completed. So we move on to the next topic by Nikhil and Nitish about the Learn NG initiative. Uh, so should will you be sharing your screen, Nikhil?
Yeah, I will do that. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Just a second. Yeah. Is the screen is
Yeah.
okay? So recently there have been some good amount of updates for the Learn NG part of the website, which involves developing learning paths for different service meshes and working with service meshes and all. So we are trying to complete one of the course, which is the hands-on history service mesh installation. For to complete one of the course, we have tried like initially has tried, almost migrated the data for one of the course and all the chapters that are required. This page was recently updated last week. It was the PR was submitted by Chinmay, which adds this page. This lists all the courses that are there in the learning path, and this would be the prerequisites required for any of the course or most of the course to start off with, which deals with the user to suggest him to install Meshery and have it running and all the steps required for it. Once we move to that, we will have the courses, and for the courses, we have the chapters listed down there. For this is a course which is almost ready. I have the chapters have been migrated by Nishit this week itself, though they are not in order, but it would be. I'm working on a PR to fix the table of contents, and after that, this should be in order. So yeah, so for a chapter, we have the table of components, which would highlight the current chapter which is being highlighted, and also the chapter in detail. This was the update or development that we have in the last week compared to the previous.
Wow. Wow. There's a lot here. This is, there's a lot, not only is there a lot here, but it's looking quite a fair bit better as well. Do we have on the learning paths? Oh, wow. Even the link that's nice. On the learning paths, well, landing page, so to speak, like where we had 3 or 4 cards. Do we? Yeah, oh, I see. Okay, got it. Good.
The design or the CSS might not be complete because we are trying to have one of the courses ready, and then there might be few updates here and there, like reducing the size of this card a bit to not make it so large.
Yeah, no, but
differentiate the cards over here from this one. The card of this could be reduced. Like we don't need videos and lectures over here. So yeah.
wow. Well, yeah, I mean, just to talk out loud with you, it might be, right. I mean, it might be, well, if you think about it, like for a given learning path, there are X number of videos and X number of labs, X number of maybe interactive labs. And then those are embedded down beneath inside of the courses and then inside of the course content. And so it still might, so like ultimately they're embedded somewhere. It might make sense that that you would still show videos or lectures here, if you know if those labs have them inside. Maybe not like I think one of these represents a lecture, and so potentially not the lectures, but maybe labs or videos, possibly.
Okay, so suppose we have these labs here. So this README would be a lecture, or like it would be a normal chapter.
Yeah. I have to go back to how we wrote down that information architecture in the design spec, but I think that like that lab that you were just looking at, I think that it's a leaf, so to speak. It's like the bottom rung of how the hierarchy is set up, and I think it was called a lab. And it's not that we can't deviate necessarily from these, but so the generic version, it starts out, the top level is a learning path, and then there's like the name of the learning path, and then there's the individual labs. Labs might, I think actually, up above, like yeah, right there where it says service, that should probably say course,
Yeah,
because
actually, the Sigma has the structure better.
oh, I see. So we have learning path, course, section, lab. So the section, this is something I couldn't put into words for Nitish last week. I was he was asking about the design, and I was kind of stumbling to articulate clearly how it is that a given learning path, that there are basically alternative versions of it, or for a course, there are alternative versions that you might want to walk through. You might want to walk through a course on securing a service mesh, but you might want to do it from the perspective of console or from the perspective of Istio. And that section concept, it's probably less of a hierarchy as much as it is like it's a version, like it's a category, it's a type. And so
Actually, like as per the design that we are following right now in the development process, what I think is the section should be a service mesh, and inside the labs it would be basically a chapters that we have within a service mesh, which would be like this would interchange. Basically, what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yep, that works, because you end up with the same result. You end up with the end artifact that someone is looking at, that leaf node, so to speak, like it's still a lab, and it's still service mesh specific. So if those two were swapped, it would be called the mutual TLS lab, but it would be in context of either Istio or console or something. Yeah, that definitely works.
So, okay. So the thing is, should we actually mention lectures? Like, is it necessary? Because based on the content that we have right now, even if we start migrating the Linkerd workshop and the advanced history workshop, I don't think like there's any lectures differentiated between chapters.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of it's a little bit of a TBD, like,
Okay.
because, well, like when we have delivered the labs in the past, or the workshops, that basically a course, then like when we've delivered a workshop in the past and you walk through the 8 labs or so, it's like, okay, well, you can imagine like this is a good example, like right here. Here's the like for every lab, or I'm sorry, for everything that's called a lab, every section, so to speak, every like of these 8 things that we have, there was a written part. I'm sorry, there were slides and sort of presentation, like conceptual presentation as to what this content is, like what a destination rule is. And then the other portion of the time was spent on the actual lab, like, so the actual content here. So each of them kind of had a split, like lecture and then lab, lecture, lab, lecture, lab. On GitHub, they're all called labs. And that's mostly true because this was the lab portion. The lecture portion, the presentation of concepts portion, is kept in a slide deck. And so, yeah, it would be a little, okay, so fine, that would mean like every course, or I'm sorry, every lab that we're listing over here, it would have like one lecture and maybe a couple of videos, but every single one of them would have one lecture. And then so you ask yourself like, well, does that make sense? Or like, at the moment, like I think until we come back to refine the content itself, it might be hard to know.
Yeah, what I was thinking is like as we change this card to a bit different one, so that we don't have a border and make it a bit, reduce the height a bit, like we have for storybook. Like these cards are pretty much decent compared to those big ones. These are small.
And so, yeah, maybe do away with both the videos and the lectures. I mean, we can always easily, like fairly easily undo that. So we should probably move forth with your perspective. Like we should probably move forth with the design that you have. And later, if we figured out we really needed to expose the number of lectures or the number of videos, we can always do that.
Okay. Yeah. Even these lectures would change to 12 or 8 chapters or so. And we can keep the videos aside, comment it out for the time. And when it changes, then we can update it.
Nice. Here's one thing for all of us to think about, to look at here. So, okay, so I'm a user or I'm a learner. I've come here. I want to be introduced to take the example. I'm being introduced to service meshes with hands-on labs. Okay, nice, good. Yeah, there's like 8 lectures here, a few videos. Okay, nice. All right, I'll click get started, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll scroll down, whatever. Now, okay, so this is it, like right now. I think that I think what I'm thinking right now, or what most people are thinking is, okay, the stuff that I'm about to learn is service mesh agnostic. Like it's not. Maybe I'll be surprised to find that all of the content is for Linkerd, and so like, okay, I wasn't aware of that. They didn't tell me that, but I get that they're just teaching me one service mesh. Okay. But since our goal isn't that, our goal is, like the same course structure, but you can take it for whatever service mesh that you want to. Knowing that, my question becomes the service meshes you can learn section. I think that is intended to be the switcher, like to switch between the same content, but for different service meshes.
Okay, so not exactly here. It will only highlight how many service meshes you can opt for this course. But when you move to one of the chapters, we will have a section over here, like just beneath the table of components, which would highlight all the service meshes that we have. Just like this, like they have a framework option over here. So once we switch from framework to framework, it only changes it.
Okay.
Data.
Okay. Fair enough. Sounds good. Fair enough. Good. Yeah, the reason I was walking through that was because it wasn't clear to me that the thing on the right-hand side is a switcher, and it turns out it's not. It's
Yeah, apparently they don't keep it as a switcher, but we can keep it. Like they are just highlighting the icons with the names what they are using. They don't
gotcha.
provide it as a switcher. And what they do is they keep a default framework to use, which is React for them, and we can choose a default framework for us, maybe HT or some other one. So whenever user clicks on get started, it would by default start with the HTTP service mesh, right? And then the user can switch from the options available to some other one, and then continue with the course as he wishes.
Sounds great. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's all, I guess. Hopefully this week the table of components and the switcher would be ready. Like next week we might be able to see a complete course totally ready with the data working and the pages in order. Hope to see that complete. Let's see.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, that's all from my end.
Nice. And then, so for this part, this would like this right here is still like the high level landing page for, I think ultimately if someone went to layer5.io/learn/learning paths, they would land here.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we want to keep it that, or if we want to keep it /learn, and then like we have right now, it highlights all the service mesh books, workshops, and the labs. So we can add the learning path section below it or just above it, and then /learning path can be as you said, Shubha.
Gotcha. Yeah, it does make sense to insert this, like those things right there into the /learn page. We do want to represent them. And then it also does make sense that there would be a high level landing page just for learning paths. And so actually both make sense because the URL would be, this one would be /learn/learning paths. The other one would be just /.
Great.
That's nice. So for, I guess, maybe we're about to get into this, but for Nitish and maybe others on the call, did other people have updates on LearnNG? So Nitish, were some of your updates just covered just now?
Yeah, actually, Nikhil has pretty much covered everything up what we've been doing this week. So yeah, we could continue with what you have to say.
Nice. Okay. Good. Nikhil made it easy for you.
Yeah, he actually spent a lot of time explaining me these things, so that's why I was able to grasp it. So I'm very fortunate.
That's great. That's great.
Everyone is fortunate under Nikhil.
Yeah.
But it's it's pretty great. It's looking nice. It's going to work well. It's not a stretch of the imagination that one or more of those service mesh teams, like one or more of the service mesh projects, might come and contribute some labs. Like I wouldn't be surprised. So that would be great. I mean, and they would do it because they're compelled to, because the site is nice, it's neutral, it works well. So that's great. So by the way, just, I don't know if this directly applies to any of you on the call, but like something that we can be doing now and can be doing as this framework is ready is the actual content. And like some of the content, it will be once a lab is done for one type of service mesh, given that the lab is based on Meshery, creating the content for the other service meshes, for some of the labs, it's like really similar. And that's part of the point of Meshery, is that you can manage all those service meshes in a uniform way. So I'll plant that thought in case people are interested in trying to generate the content as well. So. Cool. It's nice.
Yeah, I
Now,
think we can
yeah.
move on to next agenda. Cool, Josh.
Just as a quick foreshadowing, just for outside of building out content and the courses here, there's some other things that we'll end up doing. And actually, since Victory is on the phone, I'll say that there's a second phase. Well, there's both some work to be done in terms of user experience, but there's also some work to be done in terms of well, a little bit in terms of like, what a lot of us refer to as DevOps, which is probably incorrect, bad, but we ultimately will end up allowing people to have a user account here so that they can track their progress through just a light learning management system. That's basically what you all are building out, is a light learning management system. And so why would they need a user account? Really, like two things, at least initially, that we were thinking would be valuable to them. So one is the ability to track their progress, like bookmark their progress, or it's not just bookmarking, but it's also, okay, I should say three things. So bookmarking, if they take a quiz, then good, it can remember that they passed the quiz or failed the quiz. Like it can. And then thirdly, for a certification to say that they had taken the course, they had passed the quizzes, and then here's their certificate. So there's certainly user experience aspects to that. There's certainly also things like identity, user accounts, quizzes, tracking tracking whether or not people have passed, tracking a bookmark. So some of this stuff is, well, it just depends on where you're at. Like all of it is like ridiculously easy, or all of it is ridiculously hard. And for some of us it's easy, some of it's hard. And so that's good. For some of us, it's like one of those things I said is really easy. The other three things are hard. And it's good all around. For Victory, I think we're going to talk with Victory here more in a moment, but I'll say that we should, so Nikhil had a Figma up a little bit ago. There are some early designs for what the user account across Layer5 IO might look like. And so there's some prior art, so to speak. And actually, I think, Nikhil, we might have, if you, on the left-hand side where there's the menu for Figma, the section just below this section, it's called Site Auth. The thought was that at some point, is that it? If you zoom out, is there anything else? It's just those two. Okay, all right. Well then, okay. So the thought is there's a central place to sign in, because you might authenticate to sign into Meshery, you might authenticate to sign into the learning paths, and then other things that are coming forth. One of the things that's coming forth that we haven't started yet is a playground. Okay, thanks, Nitish. Okay, catch you next time.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Mert.
How is it going on?
Oh, good. We're looks like we're about a week away from having service mesh course put up.
Okay.
That's
I want to suggest some application for today's meeting. not a specific application, but I'm searching for mobile applications. So maybe we just can make build an easy, let's say easy web application. Just visits the website because I just tried to make some applications for Upport's Ubuntu Touch platform. It is not so hard, but I just want to see maybe I can do that, or maybe someone can do that. A web application that visits the website, and it will be easy to test the web development on mobile.
Nice.
Is it
Yeah.
something about today's meeting?
Yeah. Do you want to put a agenda item on in the meeting? In the meeting minutes, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, there are a lot of the websites that we have, or all of the websites that we have, should be mobile friendly. And so automating the testing that they are is a worthwhile cause. Nikhil, back in on the other the learning in the Learn NG section, the other page, the other. Like back in the Figma menu. And so I might have confused Nikhil, but Nikhil, if you can hear me back in Figma, if you go back to the other section that you were on for Learn NG. Uh-oh, okay. So let me see. Cool. Okay. Let me share something real quick.
Yeah.
So,
Am I audible right?
oh, there you go. Yep.
Cool. Just some issue with my mic.
Sure.
Right.
So one of the where did they go? We had what it looks like to have a user account, and oh, here it is. Sorry, it's under phase 2. Phase 2 that has a user account on Learn NG is that maybe you're in there, you're on the site, and you click to bookmark a certain area, and it says, "Oh, please sign in to bookmark the lesson." Good. So then this kind of skips, I think, the login and sign up is the other screen. So they would be directed here. They would either log in or sign up. And actually, right now, this isn't very intuitive that there's two separate, this is a menu because it's the same color.
I just had a question about like the future only. So are we going to use some backend or third-party technology for the username, password, and the like data stuff?
Right. Yep. That's a great question. Like this probably does require, this would end up probably being a separate server, a separate site that does process requests and run identity. Today we have such a site that does that for Meshery. So when someone
The docs.
Well, or actually more for like when you go to sign into Meshery itself, if you're running Meshery, there's an identity server running at meshery.layer5.io. If you go there without the appropriate, it expects that Meshery as an application is what's hitting it. So you don't see a login, you just see this error. If you're running Meshery, you'll end up seeing something fairly similar to this to log in. So anyway, my point is, or the answer is yes, you're right, that this needs to be a separate server. And then for users, as they go to look at over their user account and things, that Layer5 IO still remains a static site. Jot, a token, is probably exchanged. And part of that can include some amount of user preferences. So the Layer5 IO site can still stay static, but it may need to, we'll see how.
Maybe the if we are having the subdomain thing, like if we are having the learn.layer5.io, maybe that can fetch the requests from the backend.
Sure. It would, right.
So like, I don't exactly know the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't, it's only halfway figured out. Like, we don't want to have more servers than we need to. To do identity, we do need a server. Part of what that server can do is, like to the extent that we do more than just something very simple with bookmarks and whether or not they passed a quiz, that amount of info that's possible to do with very simple systems that maybe don't require a server.
So you mean the third-party technologies like Firebase or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's just files on disk. Like each user gets their own, YAML file on disk somewhere, and by on disk I mean like in a spreadsheet or in a checked into a private repo or something like that. And that can be easily, like there's some very inexpensive ways of achieving these things. It might also be the case where it's like, look, there's a lot more things we're trying to give to people than just bookmarks and whether or not they passed a quiz. It's also like at some point, if we're investing in a separate auth here, well, that's because like, I don't know how some of you have seen it. If you go out to Layer5 IO and you look at the internship programs that are out there, there's a suggestion to build the world's service mesh playground. And that would be us hosting Meshery, like us running Meshery on for people to come and learn. Like just like people would come and learn when they do playwithdocker.com, playwithkubernetes.com. When you go there, it says they'll give you an instance that will run for 3 hours or so. And so the first thing that you do is, well, you authenticate. And so our authentication would be very similar in this regard. Comes back, okay, now you're authenticated, so you can start. So instead of playing with Kubernetes, you would play with Meshery, and we would show you the Meshery interface. Here they let you create small virtual machines that can run Kubernetes or Docker. And so too would we do the same. So my point is like at the point by which we have this playground, we have the learning paths, we have authentication for Meshery, and more of that we probably won't bend over backwards trying to keep everything static. Like we probably will run a couple of servers or so.
Okay.
And yeah. Good. Great. So I think that's the learn ng stuff.
Okay. Then if there are like, if anyone has any questions, you can just ask, or then we can move to the next topic.
Yeah. At this point, I would like to add something. This issue, topic, learning path. I was searching about the Ubuntu community managers article that called gamifying or not gamifying. I think it is related with this topic in the meantime that we talk. Um, Gamifying for newcomers is the responsibility that I would like to take. So how can we do that? I offered to write code or documentation with VS Code live share feature. So what do you think about that? Writing code at the same time with mentorship, the one mentor or many mentors with newcomers.
Um, yeah,
Maybe
I think it's a good idea. We can try this into the newcomers call once, like the live thing where the newcomers can learn by coding onto the go along with the community managers. So yeah, that's a nice idea. We can talk about it into the newcomers call. Like we can implement it as well, maybe. What Lee says. Yeah, Lee.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the only issue is which platform as an development environment we will run VS Code, C Lion. This will be your decision.
Yeah, I mean the reality, yeah, it's a good, yeah. Live share on VS Code, that's a great way of helping, like for example, for newcomers work through like commit sign-off issues or work through updates to the docs, like how to run Jekyll, or other website updates, like that. The thing is, the and so like actually the what environment is being used is probably, it does become important if you're trying to run Jekyll, but if you break down and are trying to help people figure out how to install Jekyll on Windows, and it's really got nothing to do with VS Code and much more to do with sharing your screen. So yeah, Mert, I do think that like there's merit to having a newcomers call in which we say, hey, look, there are a collection of people here who are, or there's a lot of people here who are willing to help and share and do so collaboratively. Here, let's have a session that talks about VS Code live share, and a couple of people walk through how to use it and exchange and kind of collaborate over a nominal issue, like over an easy issue. And that's helpful as a session. Like then that way, as and when other contributors in the community want to collaborate over an issue or like partner program on something, there would have been a recorded session, kind of a tutorial on how to do that with live share, because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with that plugin in VS Code.
Thanks.
Yeah. There's one of the things that you just mentioned on gamifying, that's a good headspace to be in and think about for something like the learning paths. Or probably even easier to start with is on Discuss. Discuss.layer5.io is, well, it's how to gamify that, like how to encourage people to jump in, engage in the community, answer questions. And this is probably easier to gamify than anything else, which is to say, who asked the most questions this month? Well, it might be Samir, actually. Literally, it might be him. Good. Who answered the most questions? I'm not sure, but those two things are examples of like having a leaderboard. And we can either celebrate it each month by making a post or like talking about it in the community meeting. But we can also have, right now, this latest, it goes on for the full length of the page. Well, we can actually chop it in half, like cut it off about here, and then have another one that's a leaderboard. It's like most number of questions asked, most active contributor, most active people. Like that's great because it gamifies and reinforces like participation, and those people can be celebrated. They can something for them to be proud of. Maybe they'll get a badge, and because this system is set up to badge people, it's set up to count how many discussions they have, how many votes, what's the top vote, most voted thing. So for Anita specifically, and by the way, Anita has exams this week, so she's going to be taxed already. But for Victory as well, and Anita, as two individuals who are probably quite well equipped to think about this problem, like Josh, it would be really great if we made sure that, I think Anita already is, but if we made sure that both Anita and Mert as well, if he would like to, Victory, that they're both enabled in the staging site to play around with and mess with, badging.
Yeah. So like I was going to share some insight on how to contribute as well, because as I said, it was a topic as well. So I'll just quickly show it as. Okay, so basically there were a lot of questions past week about how do we contribute to the discuss.layer5.io. So we have currently 2 discussion forums up. The one is the discuss.layer5.io is the production one, and the staging discuss.layer5.io is for making the changes and testing out things. And then if it goes well, then we just migrate those changes to the discuss.layer5.io. So as there were questions on how to contribute, so basically you create an account on staging discuss.layer5.io, and then you can just ping me. I'll give you the admin access so that you can make the code changes to this discussion forum. So like the thing is that the code resides on the platform itself. So if you visit admin section and into the customize part, so here you will see the code, here it's the edit css html. So this is the code responsible for all the specifications that have been done apart from the apart from the discourse sandbox, like the header, the footer, and the hero image, and many other things that you see. All of those changes are being made on this part, on this customized tab. So if you guys want to make any changes to discuss.layer5.io, so this is the way. Like you get an admin account, you ping me, I'll give you an admin account, and then you can make those changes, try it out, you can show them to the channel, and we can look if they are good enough to migrate them into the my community forum. And yeah, that's how you will contribute. So one example is like there is a contributor who is trying to embed a Twitter timeline, and so I think there is just a few changes away, and then we'll have this section migrated over here after the latest section where we can see the Twitter timeline. So similarly, if you wish to make any changes, so apart from the CSS HTML, you can also make any changes to the colors, the text, and there is another thing, that's plugins. So you are also welcome to explore plugins. So plugins are basically some extra features that can be added as per our needs. So we have currently a few plugins that are already added, but you can explore plugins, and you can just let us know if you feel that any plugin would be very good to have on our discussion forum. So they're like, these are the things where you can contribute and make those changes, and we can just bring those changes to the discussion forum. So if there are any questions about this, like, then we'll take them first. Like I guess Sayantan was. Yeah.
I would like to say, if thanks. I would like to say I think about if there is a leadership board plugin for Slack, not only for Discuss. Maybe we can connect with Discuss and Slack. Maybe we can ask Slack company to develop some extension plugin for Slack to connect with Discuss, because we will need Slack's API for connecting Discuss with like if we want to, let's say if we want to write a client for Twitter, we just need Twitter's API, something like that, and we will need Slack's API to connect with Discuss leadership for
Yeah,
leadership board.
yeah, exactly. Like if we have the API, we can build upon the plugin by ourselves as well. So this is the example, like the Twitter feed plugin that is created by the contributor. It's a GitHub repo. So you can also, like, if you think that there is some changes that cannot be integrated just into HTML, CSS, or you wish that it should be like a plugin, you can create a plugin with the appropriate APIs and all the data. And so, like, if you just search on how to create custom plugins, it's very easy. Like they have proper documentations on creating plugins for the custom needs. So these are the ways. Yeah, the leaderboard part. So like if we have the API thing, yeah, we can make a plugin to show that leaderboard as well. So yeah, that's a very good point. And so this is the way which we can make, like, contribute to the code part of the discussion forum.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, okay, I think Sayantan got the point. I guess there was another contributor, but he's not present, Claire Charles. They also, like, he also had the same issue about the contribution, but I'll ping him in Slack and give him appropriate information there. So yeah, anybody, like if anyone else has to, like, wants to ask anything about discussion, the discuss forum, then you can ping me on Slack as well, uh, or you can ask on the website channel and we can get you done whatever is required. So thank you.
That's cool, Josh.
Jesh or Josh?
Yeah, no, Mert, go ahead. Go ahead.
Anita was writing Jesh or Josh. I was talking about that.
Nice. Nice. Well, good. So I know we're just a few minutes after, and Josh is wrapping up here. I would say it's kind of neat or the use of discourse, and in this community in an open way is kind of neat because, well, not all of us are heavy coders, so to speak, heavy, I've spent a ton of time with software languages, but a system like this, like with the plugins that are there, gives everybody, well, actually, even for some of those that do software engineering very well, languages very well, they're kind of bad at interfacing with humans and like choosing what might make the sense in terms of like the right plugins or the right way to gamify, because you don't anytime that there's a system and people can measure themselves or measure others, people try to circumvent the system or like play the system or abuse it to get themselves up. And so you have to, there's some psychology that comes in here about how, like, some psychology where you have to ask yourself, the way that the leaderboards are established, is this going to reinforce the right behavior, or is this just going to reinforce people to go make a bunch of silly comments on everything just so that they're the most active and they're at the top of the leaderboard, even though the contributions were terrible, were like, bad comments and things like that. So sometimes the answer is like, well, you can't design a better leaderboard than this one. And so you just have to moderate the forum and make sure that, sometimes you have to test things out and try it out and see what the right unit of measure is. Because wherever you start to measure, that's the thing that people are going to start to like optimize for. So how do we make sure that like not the same person every month is the top, the top engaged, top most active every month? Like, how do we, anyway, as you go into the staging server, you'll be able to, as an admin or as a moderator or an admin, you can go see some of the stats and some of the different things. You can play with some of the plugins. So for Anita and Victory and Specific and Mert as well, or whomever is interested in this area, like do coordinate with Josh, but let's try out some new plugins. There is a Slack plugin, like Josh was saying. It doesn't quite do, it more like facilitates anytime that a new topic is created, anytime someone creates a new discussion in the forum, there's a Slack notification sent. And great, that's helpful. That's nice. We don't have it enabled because it's like, because I think we're out of Slack.
Like this was the like moving out of this Slack was the main motivation behind Discuss.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get into the infinite loop, like Slack to Discuss and Discuss to Slack back.
Yeah. The reason to notify to Slack would be more like just FYI, so that people would know stuff is there and they can go answer and engage in a discussion in Discuss. But yeah. Cool, good. I encourage everybody to go get an account on the staging site. Let's get the thing. Anita is having to shoulder. She's being the champion, the activity champion. So she needs others there with her.
I wanted to chip in something. So by the side where the Twitter feeds appear, when we launched the Learn Layer5 website, we could also include some of the courses that are offered there at this end. So persons that are maybe users that come across the Discourse channel can also check out the Learn Layer5 courses.
Nice. Yeah, that's totally. So that's actually, Anita, like, I don't know if this is what you were suggesting. I'm going to say it back to you specifically, but really for anyone else is like, basically, yeah, like Anita, please go do this, or someone else, but minimally, let's get an issue where we're basically describing an advertisement or a cross-pollination of like, just like we were propagating the link to Discuss across the Layer5 IO site, we should be putting some links in Discuss pointing back to Layer5 IO. Yeah. And like a little, like, hey, what's the latest learning module? And Anita actually, like, we wouldn't do this now, but in the future, if there is a central authentication system, well, if you're signed in here and you're signed in on the learning site, then the plugin here could actually say, not only are there learning paths, but this is how far along you are on your learning path. And so, yeah, some neat things to explore. And we should definitely do exactly what you just said. Is the tweets? We don't have tweets on the main site just yet, right?
No.
But we'll get. But we should publish. Anita's tweets are going to waste otherwise.
Yeah, I was just noticing that the recent tweet is by Anita.
She's everywhere. I mean, what can you do? She's supposed to be taking exams, but you know, like she's doing exams, she's doing tweeting, she's doing, you know, you can't hold Anita back. I guess that's the thing.
Okay, so like we are already 11 minutes past the scheduled ending time. So I think we'll quickly wrap up with the today's topics. So we'll look forward to contributions to discuss and the two issues that we discussed on the in the initial part, and the inclusion announcements on both the websites, and also there are other issues on the other websites as well, like the websites messery.io, smpspec.io, and the getnethug.io or the layer5.io. So if like you can make those any of those changes, take up those issues, and if you feel there you need help, you can ping us on Slack, or you can just tag us on the GitHub discussion as well, no issues. And yeah, that would be a wrap for today's meeting. So it was like a combination of almost all things we had today: the LearnNG, the discussion forum, and the Meshery and SMP websites. So yeah, it was a good meeting. Good to see you all, and thank you for joining, and see you all into the next Monday websites call. And before that, I also like to see you on other calls as well.
Guys, thank you, Josh. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.